The first thing I noticed was that my father smiled too much. He stood in the doorway of my office like he belonged there, taking in the glass walls, the framed licenses, the people moving for me with quiet respect. He had ignored me for almost a year. Then he showed up wearing that warm, practiced face, asking how my business was doing, not how I was. My name is Tessa Whitmore, and by 32, I had learned that love in my family always came with a hidden invoice. "Proud of you," he said, brushing his hand across my desk. "You built all this alone?" I almost laughed. Alone was the only way anything survived in that house. He kept talking, too casually, about revenue, clients, expansion, whether I still used the same bank, whether I had someone trustworthy helping with finances. The questions were light, almost fatherly, but each one landed like a finger testing a bruise. I answered less than he wanted. He noticed. When he left, he hugged me longer than normal and said, "Family should look out for family." That line followed me home like a bad smell. That night, I opened my banking app for no real reason and saw a login alert I didn't recognize. I stared at the alert longer than I should have. Unknown device. Different location. Same account I had protected like it was the last clean thing in my life. My thumb hovered over the security settings, but I didn't move right away. Instead, I replayed his questions. The tone. The way he leaned in when I mentioned my accounts. The way he didn't ask about me at all. He had never cared about my life. Only what it could give him. I changed my password anyway. Something stronger. Something no one could guess. Then I added another layer of security, just in case my instincts weren't lying. They usually weren't. The next morning, my stepbrother Kyle called. We didn't talk. Not really. Not since he'd taken everything handed to him and still acted like the world owed him more. "Hey," he said, voice too easy. "Heard you're doing well." There it was again. The same wording. The same interest. "Doing fine," I replied, keeping my tone flat. He chuckled. "Good. Dad says you've got things under control. That's impressive." Dad says. I didn't answer. I just listened, because for the first time, it felt like they weren't talking to me. They were circling something, and I was standing in the middle of it. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid, but because something finally made sense. They weren't reconnecting. They were coordinating. By morning, I was already at my office, coffee untouched, laptop open, staring at my financial dashboard like it might confess something if I looked long enough. Everything appeared normal. Every number in place. Every account balanced. Too perfect. I pulled up the security logs again. The unknown login was still there, time-stamped just minutes after my father left my office. Same city. Same window of time. My chest tightened, not from shock, but from recognition. He hadn't come to see me. He came to access me. I called the bank. "Any unusual activity?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. A pause. Typing in the background. "Everything looks normal, Ms. Whitmore." Of course it did, because whoever was inside my system wasn't careless. They were patient, waiting, watching, just like him. By afternoon, I got a message from my father. "Dinner tonight. Family only." No explanation. No warmth. Just a quiet command wrapped in politeness. I stared at it for a long moment before replying with a simple yes. Because if they were planning something, I needed to see it unfold from the inside. And this time, I wasn't walking in blind. Their house looked exactly the same. Warm lights. Polished floors. That staged version of family they loved pretending was real. Kyle opened the door, smiling like nothing had ever been broken between us. "Tessa, you made it." I nodded, stepping inside slowly. My father stood near the dining table, already watching me. Measuring. "Sit," he said gently, like this was normal. Dinner started with small talk that felt rehearsed. My business came up again. Growth. Stability. Expansion. Every word was a probe, disguised as pride. I answered carefully. Short. Controlled. Then my father leaned back, folding his hands. "You've always been independent," he said. "But sometimes family should help manage success. Protect it." There it was. I met his eyes. From what? Kyle chuckled under his breath. From making mistakes. Something cold settled in my chest. You mean like trusting the wrong people? I asked quietly. Silence pressed against the table. My father's smile didn't break. We're just looking out for you. I nodded slowly, pretending to accept it, because I already knew. This wasn't concern. It was positioning. And they weren't asking for access anymore. They were making sure I wouldn't notice when they took it. I let the conversation drift after that. Smiled when expected. Nodded at the right moments. Played the role they had already written for me. But inside, everything sharpened. Every glance between them. Every pause that stretched a second too long. They weren't guessing anymore. They were confident. That was the mistake. When I got home, I didn't sit. I didn't hesitate. I opened my laptop and went straight past the dashboard, into the back-end logs most people never touch. Timestamps, access points, authorization layers. And there it was. A secondary access token. Created under my credentials. Approved through a recovery pathway I hadn't used in years. My father's birthday. My breath slowed, not quickened. He hadn't hacked me. He had rebuilt a door I forgot existed. And I had unknowingly left the key in something he would always remember. I traced the token further. It had limited permissions at first, view only. Then, days later, it escalated. Transaction authority. Full control. My hands stilled over the keyboard. They weren't planning anything anymore. They had already done it. I refreshed the account balance. And for the first time, the numbers didn't match. Not even close. A hollow silence filled the room as I realized. They hadn't just entered my life again. They had emptied it. I didn't panic. That's what they would expect. Shock. Anger. A messy reaction they could twist into doubt. Instead, I documented everything. Screenshots. Logs. Access history. Every quiet move they thought I'd never notice. Then I drove back. Same house. Same lights. Same illusion. My father opened the door this time. No surprise on his face, just a slow, calm acceptance, like he'd been waiting for this moment to arrive. You came back, he said. I need to understand, I replied. We sat across from each other. No dinner. No performance now. Why? I asked. He didn't deny it. Not even for a second. You weren't using it the right way, he said simply. Money like that should stay in the family. My throat tightened, but my voice didn't. So you took it? I invested it, he corrected. Your brother needed a start. A house. Stability. Kyle stood in the doorway behind him, arms crossed, avoiding my eyes. It was necessary, my father added. Necessary. I let that word sit between us, heavy and ugly. Then I nodded slowly, like I understood, because in that moment I did. This wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. And so was what I did next. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone, already recording. I placed the phone on the table between us. Not dramatically, not as a threat, just enough for him to see the red light. My father's eyes flicked down, then back to mine. For the first time that night, something shifted. Not fear, calculation. You're recording? He asked, voice still controlled. I wanted to be clear, I said evenly. About what you just admitted. Kyle straightened behind him. Tessa, don't turn this into something it's not. I looked at him. Really looked this time. You mean theft? I asked quietly. Silence answered me. My father leaned forward slightly. We're family. This doesn't need to leave this room. That line again. Always used when they needed silence more than truth. I stood up slowly, picking up my phone. You're right, I said. It doesn't. For a second, relief passed across his face. Then I added, because it's already gone further. His expression froze. I called my bank before I came here. I continued. And I filed a report. Kyle stepped forward. You wouldn't. I did, I said, cutting him off. And I didn't stop there. I held his gaze, steady, unshaken. Fraud division. Financial crimes. The room felt smaller now, because for once, they weren't in control anymore. They didn't try to stop me when I walked out. That was the part that stayed with me. No shouting. No grabbing my arm. No last attempt to rewrite the story. Just silence. The kind that comes when people realize the version of control they believed in is already gone. The investigation didn't take long. Paper trails don't lie. Access logs don't forget. And intent, when spoken out loud and captured, doesn't get reinterpreted. My father tried, of course.
He called.
Left messages. Said I misunderstood.
Said it was temporary.
Said family doesn't do this to each other. I listened to one voicemail, then deleted the rest. Kyle never called at all. I found out about the house through the report. Purchased in his name. Paid with my money. Framed as help. It was repossessed within months. Not out of revenge. Out of process. As for me, I rebuilt what was mine. Not just the money, but the boundaries I should have set years ago. Because the truth is, they didn't betray me in one moment. They revealed who they had always been. And this time, I believed them. Fully. Completely.
And permanently.